So last weekend I touched on the 15 worst contracts in the NBA. You guys really enjoyed that video. So today we're doing the opposite of that. We're going to give you guys the best contracts in the NBA. So this video is going to be way more positive than the worst contract video. So I'm actually going to give you guys a bonus 3 contracts in this video. So we're going to hit 18 different guys. Yeah, let's be positive here. And also we are doing no rookie contracts because we would obviously just choose Victor Wembanyama, Paolo Banchero, and those guys that are making under $15 million a year. So these are just non-rookie contracts. So the first one that I'm going to touch about is one of the best players in the NBA that signed an extension with this team in the offseason of 2024 for an absolute massive pay cut, and that is Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks. Now, Jalen Brunson is still playing on the last year of that contract he signed with the Knicks in that 2022 offseason. That was a 4-year, $104 million contract that did have a player option for 2026, which he did decline when he signed this new extension last offseason, and he could have waited and signed for so much more money than what he currently did, but he signed to a 4-year deal worth $156 million, which it starts at $34 million next year, then goes up to $37 million in 2027, $40 million in 2028, and then a player option of $43 million in 2029 when he's going to be 32 years old. That is roughly around 21 or 22% of the league cap. And we are going to see guys like Joel Embiid, Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo, or even Karl-Anthony Towns make north of $60 million over the next few years, while Jalen Brunson is going to be making about $20 million less than those players and is currently tied for the 85th highest paid player in the NBA. Guys like Devin Vassell, RJ Barrett, Andrew Wiggins are making more money than him this year, and Brunson has been a borderline top 10 player in the NBA ever since signing with the Knicks back in the summer of 2022, where he finished 12th in MVP voting in that 2023 season, averaged 24 points and 6 assists. You are getting, like I said, a true number 1 option for just 20% of your team's total cap space. That has to be one of the best contracts in the NBA. Now, truly, one of the best contracts in terms of bang for your buck has to be Peyton Pritchard of the Boston Celtics, a team that has paid basically everybody on this team, got somebody that may win 6th Man of the Year this season that is going to be making $6.6 million. Yeah, Pritchard signed a 4-year, $30 million extension off of his rookie contract, which kicked in this year, which is making $6.6 million in 25, $7.3 million in 2026, $7.7 million in 2027, and then just $8 million in 2028. That is 4% of the team's total cap space going to Peyton Pritchard, who is averaging 14 points this year, 4 rebounds, and 3.5 assists, shooting 47% from the field, 42% from 3 on 8 attempts a game, 86% from the free throw line, and like I said, is probably going to win 6th Man of the Year, because if you need to play Peyton Pritchard almost 40 minutes a night, like he did when they had some injuries against the Portland Trailblazers the other week, he can go for 43 points and knock down 10 threes. I also think Peyton Pritchard is not a bad defender whatsoever for somebody that is 6'1", and you could say, based on pure value, this is the best contract in the NBA. Sam Presti did it again. He got another fantastic contract on his books. This time it's going to be somebody that was drafted with the 55th overall pick back in the 2021 draft, Aaron Wiggins. So the standard 2nd round pick contract is just around 2 years. They reworked a contract for Aaron Wiggins where he can hit free agency in the summer of 2024, and they signed him to a phenomenal 5-year, $45 million extension that goes down every year. He's making $10.5 million this year and goes down every single year until 2029. He'll be making $7.9 million when he's 30 years old in that year, which is 3.8% of the team's total cap space. And that's also a team option as well. This is an insane contract for OKC. Wiggins this year has been one of the best bench scorers in the NBA. He's playing 22 minutes a night. He's averaging 11.5 points, shooting 50% from the field, 39.5% from 3, and 82% from the free throw line. And similar to Peyton Pritchard, when you need him to step up offensively, he can go for 30 points like he did the other week, also against the Portland Trailblazers when everybody was injured for that team. This is going to be such a valuable contract for OKC going forward when they eventually have to give Shea the Supermax and give the rookie max extensions to J-Dub and Chet Holmgren is insanely valuable. So I kind of just dunked on the Portland Trailblazers for a little bit because they were on the other end of a Peyton Pritchard offensive explosion, same with Aaron Wiggins, but they also have one of the best contracts in the NBA, and that is Deni Avdija, who they acquired from the Washington Wizards last offseason. Deni Avdija signed a very team-friendly contract extension based off his rookie contract with the Washington Wizards that kicked in this year. It's a 4-year deal worth $55 million that also goes down every year like Aaron Wiggins' deal. It's going to be at the highest rate of $15.5 million this year in his age 24 season, making up 11% of the team's total cap. And then, yeah, it just goes down every year. It'll eventually go all the way down to $11.8 million in 2028, 6% of the team's total cap space. And Deni has been such a good playmaker and offensive hub for the Blazers this year. He's averaging 15 points, 6.5 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and his efficiency is pretty good for somebody that got off to a very rough start in a new environment in Portland. He can handle the ball very well. For somebody at his size, he's got good court vision. He's a good post scorer and playmaker, and you can play him at the 3, you can play him at the 4. This is a great contract for the Blazers as they're getting out of their rebuild. Now, there's a couple contracts I didn't mention in the worst contract video for the Orlando Magic, like KCP, or maybe even Wendell Carter Jr.'s extension kicking in could be a very bad contract, but they also have one of the best contracts in the NBA on their team, and that has been their best center this year, Goga Bitadze, who they re-signed last offseason to a 3-year deal worth $25 million. $9 million this year, then goes down to $8 million next year, then $7.5 million a year in 2027 when he's going to be 27 years old, and that's 4.5% of the team's total cap space. And Goga has just been a consistent, physical, competitive big man this year for the Orlando Magic that have had a plethora of injuries, and he's not there to shoot the basketball, so their poor shooting numbers should not be taken into account in Goga Bitadze's game. He's averaging 8 points, 7 rebounds this year, shooting 62% from the field, averaging 1.5 blocks, and like I said, it's just very physical inside, gives 110% effort every single game, and yes, he is very limited offensively, but he's a good rim protector, he's a good screen setter, making basically 5% of your team's total cap space throughout his prime years as a big man is very valuable for this Orlando Magic team that just paid Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs, and that's going to have to pay Paolo Banchero this offseason to that rookie max deal. It's been a disastrous year for the New Orleans Pelicans for a bunch of different reasons, but they have some very good contracts on their team. First one we're going to talk about is Trey Murphy, who they signed to that rookie extension before the season started. So technically, Murphy is still playing on his rookie contract this year, but next year this extension kicks in. It's a 4-year deal worth $112 million, and it starts at $25 million in his age 25 season. It's going to end at $31 million in his age 28 season, but it's just 15% of the team's total cap space. And with the salary cap going up every year and the offensive potential that Murphy is showing this year, this is a phenomenal deal for the Pelicans. He has broken out this year in the 50 games he's played, and he's averaging 22 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. He's shooting 46% from the field, 36% from 3 on 8.5 attempts, 88% from the free throw line, getting to the line 4.5 times a night, which is a career high. Like I said, this has been a disastrous year for Trey Murphy. He's playing with so many different lineup iterations, but I do think Murphy could be a very high-end number 3 option on a championship team, or maybe even a number 2 option if he reaches his fullest potential. And having that option for just 15% of your team's total cap space, it's got to make this video. He's been banged up this year, and I don't want people to forget that this is one of the best contracts in the league, similar to how Aaron Wiggins got extended by the OKC Thunder. Herb Jones, a 2nd-round pick in that 2021 draft as well, got a very team-friendly 4-year, $53 million extension with the Pelicans that kicked in last year. It started at $12 million, 8% of the team's total cap space. It's going to go up to $15 million in 2027, but that's also 8% of the team's total cap space with the salary cap going up. And Herb has only appeared in 20 games this year. He hasn't played since January and is going to be out for the rest of the year. But last year, he ended up finishing 5th in Defensive Player of the Year voting. He was named to all defensive first team. He shot 50% from the field, 42% from 3, and was one of the best 3-and-D players in the NBA, maybe the best one in that specific role. And only appearing in 20 games this year, his shot was off and he was dealing with a shoulder injury, and he's not even in the top 120 players in terms of salary this season. And when he's healthy, he's much better than the 120th best guy in the NBA. Pelicans have some very nice contracts going forward with Murphy and Herb. I'm not going to mention Jose Alvarado in this video, but he's got a great contract as well. Let's go back to the New York Knicks, and they just have some really good contracts. Yeah, the Cat contract and OG could get a little bit scary, but they re-signed Miles McBride, another 2nd-round pick like Wiggins and Herb Jones in that 2021 draft, to a great non-rookie extension, where this is really one of the best contracts in the NBA. Miles McBride at 24 years old is making $4.7 million this year, 3% of the team's total cap space, and it goes down every single year. $3.9 million in 2027, 2% of the team's total cap space. Yeah, he signed a 3-year extension worth just $13 million. He's 24 years old, and he's been such a valuable bench piece to the New York Knicks over the last 2.5 seasons. Last year for the Knicks, he played 68 games, started 14 of them, around 20 minutes a night, shot 45% from the field, 41% from 3, and averaged 8 points a game. This year, he has started the last 2 games for the Knicks because of the Jalen Brunson injury, and he was phenomenal against the Kings. He had 21 points, points, 7 assists, played 32 minutes for this team, shot 63% from the field and 80% from three. He's a very good defender. He's a great three-point shooter. And for somebody making 2% of your team's total cap space, that is going to play very valuable minutes for the Knicks down the stretch in clutch moments and in the playoffs this year, that's a steal of a deal. And I know the Knicks have maybe not been reaching their expectations this year, but they do have amazing contracts. We talked about Brunson. We just talked about Miles McBride. Yeah, they also have Josh Hart on this team, who signed a 4-year, $80 million veteran extension with them a couple years ago. And this is the first year of it kicking in. And I was worried about this deal a little bit, but it's phenomenal when you look at it. $18 million this year, 12.9% of the team's total cap space. Some people were jockeying for Josh Hart to make the All-Star game this year. That's how good he's been. And then it does go up to $19 million next year, $20 million in 2027, but then has a club option of $22 million in 2028, which is just 11.9% of the team's total cap space. For somebody that is averaging 14.5 points this year, 10 rebounds for somebody that is 6'4", 5.5 assists, 54% from the field, 33% from three, 80% from the free throw line, is going to give you 38 minutes a night. He's playing the most minutes per game in the NBA. He hasn't missed much time over the last 3 years of his career since getting traded to the New York Knicks back at that 2023 deadline. And he is so valuable to this Knicks team, both on offense and on defense, crashing the glass, guarding some of the team's best offensive players. I'm a little worried on how it could age though because of his workload and the amount of minutes he's playing right now. But Josh Hart has been an Iron Man for his whole career and his multiple years at Villanova. I think it's going to be just fine. We're going to talk about somebody that made the All-Star game this year in the Eastern Conference, who's making $29 million this year, $31 million next year, and $33 million in 2027 as the team's #1 option, and that's going to be less than 20% of their cap space. Tyler Herro. Tyler Herro is having a career year in year number 6. He's averaging 24 points for the Miami Heat, 5.5 rebounds, and 6 assists a night, 46% from the field, 37% from three on 9.5 attempts, and 86% from the free throw line. I'm not sure if Herro could ever be a #1 option on a contending team, but he could be a very good #2 option. He's still just 25 years old, and he's the 72nd highest paid player in the NBA this year. Yeah, he's a lot better than that. This is one of the best contracts in the NBA, maybe the best contract in the NBA over the last few seasons. That's Jaren Jackson Jr. of the Memphis Grizzlies. So we signed a 4-year, $104 million extension right off of his rookie contract that kicked in the 2023 season at $28.9 million, but it's gone down every single year. He's making just $25 million for somebody that was an all-star in 2025 that could end up winning Defensive Player of the Year, and then that contract goes down to $23 million a year next year, 15% of the team's total cap space. He's the 84th highest paid player in the NBA, and that is going to go even lower next year. Now, if he wins Defensive Player of the Year or ends up on an All-NBA team, he's eligible for the Supermax, so he could go from one of the best contracts in the NBA to one of the more expensive contracts in the NBA. Man, the 2021 draft class in the second round and undrafted guys have produced some of the best contracts in the NBA currently, and the Lakers have one of those, and that is somebody that went undrafted in that class that got extended in the 2023 offseason, and that is Austin Reaves, who made $12 million last year, $12.9 million this year, $13.9 million next year, and then has a player option of $15 million in 2027. He'll most likely opt out of that, but he's making up 9% of this team's total cap space throughout the next 2 years. And Reaves has been a perfect #3 option to LeBron and AD, and now LeBron and Luka Doncic of this team. He's averaging 18 points, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists, all career highs for Austin Reaves. He's shooting 36% from three. His two-man game with Luka Doncic offensively has been elite to watch so far, and the Lakers have paid so much money to their top 2 guys over the last few years. Having this contract has really saved them with their cap flexibility. This player was also under one of the more better contracts over the last few years. He did get a 3-year, $58 million extension that doesn't kick in until next year, and that is Ivica Zubac of the LA Clippers. He's making just $11.7 million this year, 8% of the Clippers' total cap space. That is going to go up to 11% throughout the next 3 years, but I still think that extension is way better than what his production is, as Zubac is not even in the top 100 players in the NBA financially, and he may not even be in the top 100 next year as well. For somebody that's averaging 16 points, 12.5 rebounds, shooting 62% from the field, he's played over 65 games every single year that he's been a notable starter, and has been a great Clipper pickup for now 6.5 years when they acquired him back at that 2019 deadline. He also may end up on an all-defensive team this year, and if Ivica Zubac was a free agent at the end of the year, he'd go for far more than $19 million a year, what he's going to get basically on average throughout the next 3 years. So I'm cheating a little bit with the next one because he's still under a rookie contract, but I'm more so talking about his extension, and that was the 31st overall pick back in the 2022 draft. Andrew Nembhard by the Indiana Pacers. His contract extension kicks in next year. It's a 3-year deal worth $58.5 million, 11% of the team's total cap space throughout the 2028 season. And Nembhard is not going to meet the 65-game threshold to make an all-defensive team this year, but if he did hit 65 games, he'd make an all-defensive team for sure. He's taken such a step on that end of the floor and has been a perfect complementary piece to Tyrese Haliburton in that backcourt. I know it's been a rough year for the Dallas Mavericks, but they do have some phenomenal contracts on their books. The first one is somebody they signed last offseason, Naji Marshall, to a 3-year deal worth $27 million. That's going to be roughly on average 5.8% of the team's total cap space throughout the next 3 years for somebody that is 27 years old. He's a great defender, 12 points, 4.5 rebounds this year. And when these guys have been out, like Kyrie Irving, Luka Doncic, and Anthony Davis, he has stepped up offensively. He put up 34 points the other night against the Suns, 29 points against the Grizzlies, 22 points against the Bucks. And that's why I'm really excited to see this Mavericks team fully healthy again, because Naji Marshall could be a top scorer in a pinch, but also could be such a valuable bench offensive option. And the other amazing contract that the Dallas Mavericks have is Max Christie, who they did get in that Luka Doncic trade. He signed a 4-year, $32 million extension with the Lakers that kicked in this year. He's making $7.1 million, 5% of the team's total cap space. That's going to go up to $8.8 million in 2028. That year is a player option that he's most likely going to opt out of, but he's going to be playing under such a valuable contract throughout the next 3 years for Dallas as they're trying to go in what's supposed to be their win now window. And I think is asking to do way too much offensively for somebody that is just 22 years old in his new role. But like Naji Marshall, when this team can get fully healthy, he's going to be a phenomenal complementary piece to their top scoring options on such a fantastic deal. I mentioned before how Boston has such a great contract in Peyton Pritchard's deal, and they're paying a lot of money to Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown. I honestly think Derek White is under a great deal as well for this team. Now, Derek White signed a 4-year, $70 million extension, and he was playing for about 13% of the team's total cap space over the last 4 years in Boston, including this year. Now, his new extension does kick in next year. He's going to be making around 17% of the team's total cap space on a $30 million a year average, but I honestly think that's a steal with the cap space going up and what Derek White provides for this team, both on offense, defense, and for somebody like Peyton Pritchard who could step up offensively. He had 41 points in that Blazers game, like Peyton Pritchard. It's a phenomenal point of attack defender. He could shoot almost 40% from 3 on 9 attempts a game, and is perfect for this Missoula Ball offense. And the last one is similar to Trey Murphy's contract extension before. He's still under his rookie deal right now, but the contract extension he signed going into this year is going to age so well, and that is Jalen Johnson of the Atlanta Hawks. He signed a 5-year, $150 million extension with this team going into the year, so it's going to be $30 million a year every single year until 2030, when he's going to be 28 years old, and that's going to be on average 16% of the Hawks' total cap space. And Jalen Johnson was playing like a borderline all-star in the first 36 games this year before he went down with a season-ending shoulder injury. He was averaging 19 points, 10 rebounds, 5 assists, 1.5 steals, and shooting 50% from the field. He can get downhill, run in transition, work the pick and roll with Trae Young, and is a perfect complementary piece to Trae, both on offense and on defense. And like I said, this contract is going to age very well throughout the next 5 years. So that is going to be it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of the best contracts that I mentioned in this video. And if there's a contract that I didn't mention that you think should have been mentioned, hey, let me know down below. Hit that thumbs up if you guys did enjoy. Subscribe if you are not already. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.